The first time Rael saw her, she stepped out of the wreckage barefoot, cloaked in the smoke of a dying world. The freighter had come down hard its hull a scorched ruin, leading sparks into the haze of a shattered forest. Rael had found the impact site by accident, hunting scrap in the borderlands, chasing signals no one else cared about. What he found instead was something he hadn't seen in 5 cycles. A living alien, and not just any alien, one of them. Hey. Diraxi, female, slender, silver-skinned, and covered in ash. She stumbled down the half-collapsed ramp with a smaller figure clinging to her hand, likely a child, equally dirty, equally silent. The adult stopped when she saw him. Her pale eyes locked onto his like a targeting laser. "Don't shoot," Rael called, raising his hands. She didn't answer, she just stared. Exhausted. Judging, then she dropped to her knees, pulling the child close. They were starved. He could see it in the way her shoulders trembled, and how the child's legs barely held weight. She smelled like scorched metal, fear, and dry blood. Rael lowered his rifle and took one slow step forward. "You're safe. No one is safe," she rasped. Her voice was cracked, strange accented, but still melodic. "You're not with the Dominari?" he asked. She shook her head. "It tried to breed me. I escaped. The ship was mine. I crashed it to stop them from tracking us." Rael studied the girl. "Is she yours?" "Yes," she said. "She's all I have." His instinct was to run. But instead, he dropped to a crouch, eye level with the child. "Hi there. I'm Rael." The girl clung tighter to her mother, but her violet eyes flicked toward him curiously. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. The woman exhaled. Then, with a force that sounded like the last of her pride crumbling, she whispered, "If you wash me, if you make me clean again, I'll bear you strong, children, human, just keep her alive." Rael blinked, stunned. It wasn't flotation, it was desperation, and it hit him like a punch to the chest. "I'm not here to claim you," he said. "I'm here to help." Her face didn't change. "You'll need to wash me. The tracker ink gets fused into my skin. They're scent markers. I can't let her breathe it much longer." Rael understood then. The Dominar hadn't just branded her, they'd chemically marked her a mobile beacon for hunter drones. She didn't get the ink off soon, they'd all be dead. "I've got solvent," he said, motioning gently. "My place is just across the ridge. I won't be able to walk far," she murmured. "Then I'll carry you." She tried to laugh. It came out like a cough. "You humans really are strange." Rael stepped forward and gently helped her up, cradling the child with one arm. She weighed almost nothing. Muscle and wire, she kept her face averted as if ashamed of the contact. Her body shook against him, not from cold, but from holding too much in for too long. "My name is Sci-Fi," she said at last. "I'm Rael. You're going to be okay." "You're wrong. We'll see." Rael's outpost was simple. Metal. Walls, filtered water, a recycled air system, and solar shielding. Inside, he laid Sci-Fi on a padded cot, giving her clean water and soft rations. The child silent but alerted, like she hadn't in days. Then he prepped the decontamination chamber. "Are you ready?" he asked. Sci-Fi nodded, stripped down without ceremony. Her body bore the marks of survival burns, bruises, lash scars, and the faint, iridescent tracings of Dominary ink spiraling across her skin. Rael had seen blood before, but this was different. She stepped into the basin and sat. "Be quick, Ati. Once you start, it will burn." He worked fast. The solvent was a gel compound designed for dermal branding, rare and expensive. He applied it with steady fingers, rubbing the chemical into every crevice of the inky pattern. Sci-Fi gritted her teeth, sweat beading on her brow. She didn't scream, even when her skin blistered, even when old wounds reopened. "You don't have to do this alone," said softly, kneeling beside her. Her voice broke. "I'm afraid not of pain, of peace. I don't remember what it feels like." "You'll remember," he whispered. "I'll help you." She shuddered. "Why are you kind to me?" "Because I see you." She met his gaze then, and something between them cracked like armor splintering, after the last patch of ink dissolved. She leaned forward, head against his shoulder. "If I live through this," she murmured, "I will give you sons who can break steel and daughters who can fly." He smiled. "Let's start with you just living." That night, a hunter drone swept low over the ridge. Rael shot it down with a modified long-range EMP round. "They found you," he told Sci-Fi. She didn't flinch. They always do. Rael checked the sky. More signals. Ow. I think they sent a pack. She stood beside him, skin clean, wrapped in a faded cloak. "Then we fight. You can barely walk. But I can still kill." Rael handed her a pulse pistol. "Let's make them regret ever touching your blood." The drones came with claws and fusion blades. The Dominari foot soldiers followed. Rael fought like hell. But Sci-Fi was wrath-made flesh. Her style was unorthodox, brutal, fluid, predatory. Every strike was fatal. The child, hidden in the bunker's core chamber, sang an eerie humming note that seemed to strengthen her mother's resolve. Rael was wounded, took a blade to the side, but kept moving. By dawn, bodies of the Dominari lay scattered. The ridge smoked. The dogs his perimeter hounds had torn apart with the blasters. Missed. Sci-Fi limped toward him. Her hands were soaked in blood. "I kept my word," he said. "Through gritted teeth, and I will keep mine," she whispered. Then she kissed him, and the kiss tasted like fire and freedom. The quiet didn't last. The bodies of the Dominari soldiers had barely cooled before the next storm crept in, subtle at first. Like a shadow waiting for night. Rael knew the Dominari never sent only one team. They tested borders, softened resistance, with small-scale incursions, and then came hard and fast when they sensed weakness. His wound throbbed. He winced as he cleaned it inside the dim light of the solar chamber. Sci-Fi was silent nearby, standing watch as the wind rattled through the metal siding of the bunker. Her skin, finally free of the Dominar ink, gleamed faintly in the low light. Clean, bare, beautiful, the child, whom she finally called by name, Salia, sat, curled in a blanket with one of the perimeter dogs sleeping beside her. The hound, large and shaggy with sensor ports behind its ears, let the girl stroke its scruffy fur, rumbling in approval. "How made her?" Salia didn't speak often, but she listened. And when she smiled, even Rael felt something in his chest unravel. "You're too injured to fight again soon," Sci-Fi said without turning to him. "Your side is leaking." Rael grinned painfully. "That's just a bit of vital fluid. We've got extras." She ignored the joke. "I'll send their brood commanders next. Maybe even a PSI lord." "And what will you do?" he asked. Tying off the bandage, she finally turned to look at him. "What I always do. Survive. But this time I'm not running." "Oh. They want her. I won't let them have her." Rael stood and limped to the terminal, called up the satellite feed. What was left of it? A half-burned orbital relay still blinked signals from above, enough to triangulate pulses, enough to know they had ours maybe a day at most. "Then we don't wait," Rael said. "We hit them first." Sci-Fi raised an eyebrow. "You're proposing to ambush a Dominari landing squad in your condition?" "No. I'm proposing we bait them, make them think we've gone." Her eyes narrowed. "And go where?" He didn't smile this time. "Into the wastes, to the ruined towers." Near Blackglass Canyon, Sci-Fi stiffened. "There are old things there." "From the Ascended, I know. They say the wind screams like it's alive, that it remembers every scream ever made within those walls." Rael tapped the terminal, which is why no Dominari will expect us to be hiding there. We survive. The terrain, we live. They follow, we'll bury them with the ghosts. She stared at him a long moment, then nodded. "Then we go tonight." Packing took minutes. The hounds were outfitted with load harnesses. Food was rationed. The child was secured in a repurposed shock cradle on Rael's back. Light but strong. Built to absorb jolts from landmines or kinetic fire. Sci-Fi took a rifle. Rael took a plasma saber. He hadn't drawn in 3 years. They didn't speak much as they crossed the ridge and dropped into the first chasm. The air was thin. Electrical storms surged like blue ghosts across the horizon. The wastes were alive and bitter. Once a great civilization had stood here. Now, nothing but jagged metal spires and black sand valleys remained. After hours, they made camp beneath a wrecked sky bridge, its girders twisted like bones. Salia slept curled against Lysa's chest. Rael sat on lookout, watching the horizon throb with distant firelight. "You could have left," she said quietly. He didn't answer. "You could have walked away when you saw what I was." He turned his gaze toward her. "You think being a survivor makes you unworthy? Think being bred for war by the Diraxi Imperium makes me dangerous. I've killed many things. Some of them were innocent, so have I," Rael said. "In the border conflicts, I served under Captain Hyrule on the Skelbridge front." Her expression shifted slightly. "Then we are both monsters, though we are just what's left after monsters pass through." The wind howled. Metal shrieked in the distance. Lisai leaned her head back against the wall and closed her eyes. "Would you still take me, Rael? Knowing what I've done? Knowing that I was made to breed killers?" He stood slowly, walked to where she sat, and knelt beside her. "I don't want to brood," he said. "I want you. Whatever comes with that, I'll carry." She opened her eyes, and for the first time he saw tears. Not weakness, release. She reached for his hand, and in the black silence of the wastes, their fingers laced together. Morning didn't come gently. The hounds growled first. Low, guttural warnings. Rael snapped awake. Lisai was already on her feet, rifle in hand. A pulse sang through the air. Not visual, mental. The Pace Lord had come. It hovered just above the broken. Planes 10 meters of seething flesh and cybernetics, robed in flesh-spun silk, its mind broadcasting. Thoughts like sharpened glass. "Give us the child," it said. Not aloud, not even telepathically. It injected the command into every sensory nerve Rael possessed. He gritted his teeth. Blood leaked from his nose. Lisai stumbled, but she growled through it. "No," she whispered. "Not again." And the plod floated closer. The ground beneath it scorched. A squad of Dominari shock troops flanked it, armored in white bone and black steel. Lisai shoved Salia into Rael's arms. "Run." "No," he said, voice hoarse. "We hold here. You'll die. I'd rather die standing with you than live crawling from your shadow." Something in her blazed. She kissed him, rough and fast. A taste of smoke and fury. Then she turned and charged into the fire. Rael retreated up the slope with Salia on his back. But he didn't run far. He circled through the canyon wall, dropped behind an old ascended capacitor column, and activated the relic inside one of the few pieces of forbidden tech he'd kept hidden. The pulse triggered a blast. Field a frequency wave tuned to interfere with Dominari mind transmissions. The Pace Lord shrieked. Lisai lunged with her plasma blade and struck true. The thing felt wisting in spasms, its mind collapsing in on itself like a dying star. But the soldiers kept coming. Rael joined the fray, side by side. Human and Diraxi fought like titans. Steel rang, flesh burned, the hounds ripped and clawed. Cyber spines bristling with static. Rael lost count of how many fell. When it was over, only 3 remained standing. Rael.Lysa, Lya.Lysa, collapsed into his arms, bloodied, laughing through her exhaustion. "We won," she whispered. "For now," Rael said. He looked at the child who now stood beside them. Salia tilted her head, and then, with the voice of a dozen stars, she said her first words to Rael. "You're my father now, aren't you?" He choked. "If you'll have me," the girl smiled, "I choose you." And Lassie, bruised and trembling, looked at him like she had already chosen to. The wastes were quiet again, but it was the silence after a storm, not the peace before one. Rael had grown used to the desert winds screeching against the metal ruins, the scent of scorched rock and ionized sand. But now, as they ventured deeper, toward the black glass core, the air tasted older. It's like the breath of sleeping giants. Lasai limped beside him, one arm bound with makeshift wrappings from his old shirt. The blood loss hadn't stopped completely. Her metabolism was recovering, but not fast enough. Rael had offered to carry her. She refused. "You've already carried my guilt," she said. "Let me walk on my own feet this time." They had buried the last of the Dominari squad in a collapsed trench, burning the corpses in silence. Not for ceremony, but necessity. The scent of death in the wastes attracted more than buzz drones and Voltrumites. Rael remembered the child's voice. Those 5 words spoken as clearly as if the stars themselves had declared them. "You're my father now, aren't you?" It looked at Salia. Her green-gold eyes were ancient, far too knowing for a child. She walked now without fear, her hand wrapped around one of the hound's harnesses like she belonged to the wild. "Do you remember anything?" Rael had asked her earlier that morning, while Lysai slept. She had looked at him, tilting her head the same way her mother did when confused only. Feelings. "I remember floating. I remember warmth in her arms." Rael had asked no more now, with sunset dying behind them and the ancient glass towers looming like gods turned to ash. He realized they'd reached the edge of the known map, and beyond it whatever the ascended left behind. "Tell me what we're walking into," he said to Lysai as they rested beneath a broken dome. The sky choked in dust. She looked toward the canyon's heart. The ascended once lived here. They weren't like you or me, not flesh, not machine, something in between. You think they left something behind? "I know they did," she whispered, "because my people were created from their designs. The Diraxi Imperium reverse-engineered what little they could. But in the old ruins in the Black Vaults there's knowledge even they feared to touch." Rael studied her. "Out. Know this?" Lysai didn't answer immediately. "Then, because I escaped from one of their breeding vaults through here." His throat tightened. "You grew up in this hell?" he asked. "No," she said. She stood and walked forward, passing her fingers along a cracked obelisk covered in burned-out glyphs. "I ran when I was 12 cycles old. No name, no voice, just instinct. They hunted me, but I disappeared into this place, hid, and something spoke to me." "What did it say?" She turned slowly, her voice low. "You are unbroken." That word echoed inside him like a fault line cracking, unbroken. He looked at her scarred, fierce, and yet impossibly gentle when she held her daughter. And he believed it. She had never broken. She had bent the universe around her instead. They reached the core hours later. It didn't look like a place. Looked like a wound in the world draw pulsing with blue fire. Giant glass shards jutted from the crater like ribs, and beneath them a black spire spiraled downward into the ground. Humming with long-dead energy, Celia walked ahead, as if drawn. Rael moved to grab her, but Lysai stopped him. "Let her go. She's a child." "She's more than that," Lysai said softly. "Don't you feel it?" He did. The air trembled, and then the voices began. Not words, not thoughts. Feelings. They crashed into him like ocean tides, waves of grief, joy, terror, birth, and death. He dropped to one knee, gasping. Salia stood calmly at the edge of the pit. Eyes glowing with soft golden light, she raised her small hand, and the black spire cracked open like a blooming flower. Inside, stairs descended into dark light. Lysai whispered, "She's opened the vault." The interior was impossibly vast. Lysai said the ascended used dimensional layering, folding space inward, like origami. The vault's heart was kilometers deep, but it fit inside a space the size of a tower. They found halls lined with coffins, each sealed in transparent crystal. Inside were not corpses, but templates. Humanoids. Diraxi. Human derivatives. Even creatures Rael didn't recognize, with wings of light and faces half-formed from plasma. "What is this place?" he asked, breathless. Lysai's voice trembled. "A Genesis cradle." "Ow." The Ascended were engineers of life itself. "Ow." "This is where they dreamed new species into being." Rael looked at her. "Her people were made here." She nodded. "We were their final experiment." And then Sally approached a chamber in the center. It pulsed when she entered. The wall rippled like water, revealing a pedestal. On it sat a crown, not gold, not metal, just woven threads of blue. Energy. Lasai stepped forward and stopped. Her eyes widened in fear. Rael moved to protect her. But Celia turned and held out her hand. "It's mine," she said, not demanding. Factual. Rael didn't stop her. The moment her fingers touched the crown, the entire vault sang. Every crystal lit, the darkness shattered, and from the walls dozens of ghostly forms stepped out, tall, robed, faces hidden by veils of light. One of them spoke not in sound but in Rael's bones. "The air has awakened. The crucible is open." The spirits turned to Lisai. "You were the carrier, the chosen vessel. You preserved the lineage. And then, to Rael, and you are the bonded. Flesh and flame, steel and soul, her protector. Sksh, her pair." Rael didn't understand, but Lisai? The tears streamed down her cheeks. "It wasn't just war," she whispered. "They weren't trying to make soldiers. We're trying to rebirth their future. She's their last hope." Salia stepped down, wearing the crown like it had always belonged. And when she spoke again, her voice echoed with thousands of memories. "I am not just a child. I am memory made flesh. I am what was lost." Rael reached for her. She smiled and took his hand, and Lisai, for the first time, dropped to one knee in submission, but reverence. "My daughter," she whispered. They stayed in the vault for another day. Rael studied what he could: ancient weaponry, medical marvels, forgotten knowledge preserved in quantum code. Lisai translated some of it, what little her genetic resonance unlocked. Salia sat beside glowing orbs of light, absorbing everything. Her mind was a sponge, processing faster than Rael could believe. By the end of the day, she spoke 5 languages and could manipulate floating tech interfaces like she was born to do it. And in truth, she was. That night, Lasai and Rael stood atop the vault's lip, watching the stars swirl above. "She's not just our child anymore," Rael said. "She never was," Lisai whispered. "But she chose us anyway." Rael turned to her. "You once said if I claimed you, made you whole, you'd give me strong children." Lisai's lips quirked. "I didn't know they'd come pre-installed with galactic destiny." They laughed, then silence. And then she turned, facing him fully. "You still want more?" she asked. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Only if they have your eyes. And your stubbornness," she teased. "And your fury." She looked up at him. And he kissed her beneath the stars, where the ghosts of gods watched. And the future of empires rested in a sleeping child's hands. The dawn sky bled silver. Above the canyon, sleek black ships crept into view, Diraxi warbirds, their hulls whispering sonic pulses across the wastes. Rael and Lisai stood atop the vault's outer ring, wind tugging at their hair as the invasion force descended like a plague swarm. There was no doubt the Dominari had returned. At his side, Lysa's eyes narrowed. They tracked the vault's reactivation. Rael's fists clenched. "How many?" Lysai's vision swept across the horizon. 3 full dropships, 20 shock troopers each, a Warlord-class controller at their head. Warlord nodded, the kind bred to command legions, cold, fast, and nearly unkillable. And they're coming for her. Below them, Salia sat in meditation within the vault's open core, light from the ascended crown dancing around her small body. She looked like a girl praying, but she was a storm waiting to wake. Rael checked his sidearm. A coil-charged revolver modified with Diraxi tech. "We're outgunned." Lasai smiled grimly. "So we fight smarter. You take the East Ridge with the dogs. I'll stall them at the canyon mouth." He touched her arm. "You can't stop a warlord alone." Her golden eyes flickered. "I wasn't made to stop him. I was made to kill him." A long silence passed. Rael leaned in and pressed his forehead to hers. "If we don't make it, we will." She interrupted, "Because she's watching." He nodded once, then they parted. The first dropship cracked open like a pod, vomiting out troopers in mirrored armor. They fanned across the rocky slope, moving with eerie precision. Rail took his position, behind a collapsed pillar. At his side, the hounds growled low, teeth bared. Harnesses humming with kinetic enhancements, the Dominari. Foot soldiers advanced in perfect formation. Rail counted seconds, then fired. His revolver roared like thunder. Each round guided by magnetic coils. The first 3 troopers went down, helmets cracking like eggshells. The hounds surged. Rail moved with them, rolling, firing, ducking behind cover. His mind sharpened, senses flaring with every breath. It fought pirates, raiders, smugglers. But these weren't men, they were weapons. Flank left. Ah, he shouted. One of the hounds dove through a broken column, slamming a soldier into the rock. Bones cracked, blood sprayed. Rail followed through with a clean shot to the next. He was a ghost in the ruins, never staying still long enough to be targeted. But even ghosts get tired. By the time the second wave landed, he was down to his last clip. One of the hounds limped, ribs cracked. The other bled from a burn wound along its flank. They kept fighting because she was watching. On the other side of the canyon, Sci-Fi faced the warlord. He stood twice her height, armored in obsidian bioplate. Eyes like dying stars. In one hand he carried a plasma blade longer than her body. The other hand pulsed with telekinetic charge. "You were supposed to be extinct," he growled. "I get that a lot," Sci-Fi said, drawing her own twin blades. "You're a defect, an escaped specimen. Your genome was sealed." She smirked. "Guess someone broke the lock." Then she attacked. The canyon exploded. Sci-Fi moved like a shadow, slashing, ducking, leaping off broken columns. Her blades sparked against his armor. He struck with earth-shaking force, his blade carving trenches into the stone. Each clash sent shockwaves across the valley. She bled from a dozen wounds. He lost an arm, and still they fought. "You can't win," the warlord snarled. "She belongs to the Imperium." "She belongs to no one," Sci-Fi hissed. With one final scream, she plunged both blades into his chest, using the last of her strength to twist upward through the armor and spine. The warlord gasped, then died. She fell beside him, breathing ragged, and smiled. Inside the vault, as Salia opened her eyes, the wind stilled. Time bent around her. The remaining soldiers stopped mid-stride, caught in something invisible, some pressure they couldn't name. She rose slowly, floating. Inches off the ground, the crown above her head flared bright. "You came to kill me," she said softly, her voice now fused with countless echoes. "But I am not afraid." The nearest soldier raised a weapon and turned to ash. The rest screamed. Salia raised both hands, and the vault responded, light bursting upward in crystalline beams, wrapping around her like wings of fire. She became a figure of myth, half child, half cosmic fury. And then, the soldiers fled. No shots fired, no orders given. They simply knew, in the marrow of their bones, it trespassed on sacred ground, and they were unworthy. Rail limped into the clearing just as the last dropship fled. His coat was shredded. His side dripped blood. The hounds followed slowly, panting and scorched. He looked up. Han saw her. Salia floated above the pedestal, the crown dimming, her eyes softening. She drifted down slowly, landing gently on her feet. "I didn't mean to hurt them," she whispered. "You didn't," Rail said, reminded them what power really is. Then he turned and saw Sci-Fi dragging herself across the ridge. Body bloodied but alive, he ran. She collapsed into his arms, laughing. Hoarsely, "I told you I'd kill him," she said. "You did. And I'm still clean." He kissed her fiercely. "You're perfect." She grinned through her pain. "So, about those strong children," he held her tighter. "Let's raise the one we've got first." I knelt beside them. "I don't want to be a queen," she whispered. "You don't have to be," Sci-Fi said gently. "Then what should I be?" Rail looked at her and smiled. "Free." 2 weeks later they buried the vault. Salia sealed it with a thought, turning its wonders to sleep until the world was ready again. Rail rebuilt the ship. Sci-Fi planted gardens in the dust. and Celia drew constellations on the walls of their new home, humming songs no species remembered but somehow still belonged to everyone. One night, as the stars wheeled above them, Rael held Lisai on the hilltop. "Still think I just wanted to wash you?" he asked. She rolled onto him with a playful growl. "You did? You wanted to fix me up, keep me soft, polish me like your tools? I wanted to know you." "Well," she whispered in his ear, "now you do." He looked up at the stars and whispered, "I never thought cleaning up a dirty alien would change the whole universe." Lisai kissed him gently. "You didn't clean me, Rael. You loved me. That was the difference." Below, Celia laughed in her sleep, the crown dimmed but still resting beside her. And somewhere, in the farthest reaches of the wastes, the old machines dreamed again of fire, and love, and life reborn. The end.